And then you the show,
I
right?
was on the phone. That's true. That is my fault.
There's so many goddamn
I think we're live.
protests.
Oh, that's true. My fault. So this is what happens when you
Okay.
decide to do a late show and your producer like is in bed and you gotta try and send all the link out last minute by yourself. Welcome to the special late night show with Anoa and Brandon.
Good evening, Anoa and Brandon.
Good evening. This is Anoa and Brandon. It won't let me post messages to the other one, but anyway, yeah. So what's up? What's cracking, you guys? I mean, it's been a day 2, apocalypse.
I want to. Ben asked a question on his show that I want to answer, and it is day 2 of the apocalypse. So everyone, grab your machetes and your ATVs and get out there with your tigers and go crazy. But Ben asked a question about who benefits from scapegoating poor people and the white male, and the answer to that question is very simple. The liberal elite benefit from that. Upper middle class and higher white people in the Democratic Party benefit from scapegoating all racism and all sexism to be something that only applies to rural white people and poor people, and as represented by the South.
Right.
Narrative. Like when they don't like a group of people, they call them white males or rednecks or trailer trash. And they pretend and they use that as a way to prevent themselves from having to come to terms with their own racism, their own liberal racism. And that's what we saw during the West Virginia primary, when people couldn't figure out why Clinton was so willing to just write off a whole subsection of population, poor whites.
Well, I mean, and they also conversely, right? Everyone, I think to follow along with that, well, this is a completely different point. But I was going to say, like, on the flip side, you have people willing to dismiss and write off a whole group like that. But then the same people who really don't give a damn about anybody besides themselves are cloaking themselves. And like Ben was talking about on previously in identity, right? So whether it's, this whole, I talked about it when I talked about Black Girls Rock, I've talked about Secretary Clinton cloaking herself in blackness. I mean, she's literally, if she could wear Michelle, she would have done that. Like, seriously, like if she could have worn Michelle, because they just went so far over in the rhetoric and the nonsense, and they just really felt like, as Black people, we're just such a captive, docile audience or group that they could just ride us and manipulate and do whatever. And yes, while of those who voted, it was a large proportion. But I had a great conversation earlier this evening. Actually, I missed the call. There was for those of you who still care to even, look at anything, like, DFA had a call earlier and I missed it, and I'll get into that in a little bit. But I was on another call that a friend of mine organized. It was a group of us Black women who got on a call. And, the general sentiment was most of them had, in fact, voted for Secretary Clinton. But they did so, again, as we talked about with many people who voted for her, to vote against Trump, right? Because they just felt that so much of what was going on, like, it was upsetting. This is like the best. People, there was so much in the conversation. It was so rich and it was so awesome. So this vitriol, like, well, they keep voting for her. Well, people, right or wrongfully, thought that, she was a good option to do these things. But the conversation we were having is a conversation not being had in the mainstream media. And that's why I like having platforms like this where we can have these conversations, which is why I'm glad you're here to talk to me. But someone just put in, but Ledner said the Crack Podcast has been covering this topic pretty well lately. Poor rural whites are people that liberals love to dump on. Yeah, actually, they are. It's a very classist thing that happens, and it creates this unnecessary. Go ahead.
No, yeah, it's true. And I mean, I guess a great example of this is a great example of why this happens is if you look at opioid addiction and the proliferation of Vicodin and Dilaudid and all of these, big pharma narcotics in poor white communities, and how it's very simple for them to sort of dismiss this as a problem because it's happening to poor white people. And I said it on Project Sanity earlier today that the people I feel bad for in this election too, besides minorities, besides women, are poor white people who ultimately who would have gotten the shaft under Clinton or Trump. But not only are they going to get the shaft under Trump, but they're also going to be scapegoated as though they are the only people who voted for Trump, as though Trump rode in on a wave of poor white.
Well, that's absolutely correct, right? And Ben, and actually, I was tweeting out. I don't know if anybody caught it yesterday. I was tweeting out hashtag receipts yesterday. I went through some of our old videos because seriously, I can't speak for anybody else out here that's been doing this. But Ben, myself, Project Sanity, all of us have been talking about several of these things that are now aha moments for some of these people. We've been talking about even the thing with the celebrities, right? We were talking about, oh yeah, they're racist too. I lived in West Virginia for 8 years, but they're some of the nicest racist people I've ever met. Sometimes.
Yeah, they are nice. They're
no, seriously, but that's what I try to explain. And I remember one time, I can't remember who I used to follow, and then I tried to explain, like, you know, it's not just that white people, like some poor white people, it's not that they're just like willfully. Some people are just blatantly racist. Some people are just prejudiced and don't know no damn better. And not saying that that's our fault or our problem, but at the same time, we can't be upset about a system that has oppressed and denigrated our community's education, you know, economic advance and opportunity, and fail to see how it has happened in other places. And, you know, Bernie tried to make that commentary. He tried to make that comment during the primary, and it fell hollow. You know, he was very clumsy with it, but it's true. When I look at the decimation and what has happened, like how Appalachia, particularly in West Virginia, has been destroyed and decimated. And you're talking about someplace with an obscene disparity in wealth, right? It's an obscene disparity of wealth. Like, you ain't seen poverty until you done roll through the Southern coal fields. Like it is just depressing to just even drive through these areas. And you know, I think that someone said to me earlier, like, you know, we can't be looking at this as like a dumpster pile of who's going to be oppressed by Trump more, and just recognize that there's shit that's wrong in America and we need to be addressing it. And they've always used whiteness to hold poor white people against us somehow, right? Like, this is something that's instilled in people. Because even when you think about how much they hate Obama, like one of I didn't know, I was friends with this woman, and our kids were the same age. Like, you know, I've talked about this before, I'm a younger parent, and it's been hard at times because, you know, you're a professional, you're a young parent, so your kids end up playing and being in school with certain kids with certain parents. And there are times where I'm like 15, 20 years younger than everybody else. So I got really happy when I started meeting people who were in similar age ranges. Their kids were in similar age ranges. They were also, you know, so we would talk and hang out. And I mean, this woman is one of my best friends, and her son, our boys came in, they were about 7, 8 years old, and they had an argument about Barack Obama because Max loved Barack Obama when he was little. Like I said, we were living in West Virginia, and there were sometimes, you know, his dad, you know, would travel for work. So there were some times when Max wouldn't really see black men because we lived in West Virginia. And when he first saw Barack Obama at the age of 4, he was just, oh my God, he was obsessed with Barack Obama. But anyway, that's a whole nother story about imagery and representation, right? But they came in and they're arguing, and when she said something, and then her son said something, and Max looked at me, and then she and I started talking and stuff, and I had no idea that my friend who I cherish so much was a Obama hating white Republican. Like, I just didn't know. But I learned so much from interacting with her and her family. A lot of stuff is they are uneducated, and they believe what comes out of Breitbart. They believe what's on Fox News. I mean, they believe what's being shoved down their throats, what's being, you know, passed around their schools. You know, we had so many instances, and I really had to educate people. And it was such a humbling experience for them and for me, because I had to decide whether I was going to educate or whether I was going to be up in everybody's ass threatening to sue people all the time. Like it's wild. But what we got to understand is once we get outside these few urban areas, most of America is small and rural and like this. And there are places where people rarely ever interact with people of color, you know, and it's not that, again, it's not that it's our burden, you know, so to speak, but at the same time, there are multiple factors working, and it's not just as simple as poor white people are just racist.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
It's so much more intricate than that. And we need to get to the point where we can admit that other people are oppressed and have issues too, and it doesn't necessarily take away from our argument. Because I could talk to you about your racism and your ignorance, but that don't mean that because I might be understanding of your plight or something that's going on with you, that doesn't mean that it takes away from my agency and ability to advocate on all these other issues. Because I mean, when Trayvon Martin, again, living in West Virginia, when Trayvon Martin was murdered, when the trial was happening, it was awful. And, you know, I used to run Max's football team. Actually, I ran the whole franchise. But anyway, I'm standing there with his head coach. And again, these people I've been friends with, you know, they all adore Max. They, you know, they're so good with the kids. And so they were talking about, and it doesn't click to them, right? Because if you ever see like the TV shows with the token black families and stuff like that, like you're not really black because you're like us, right? They don't see you as black anymore. And so we're all talking, and I'm getting heated. These two old white men, I'm like so angry. And I said to them, I looked at them, I said, you know how Max is like really big? Again, Max is like, you know, 8 years old at the time. You know how Max is really bigger than everybody else? They're like, well, yeah, we love Max. I said, imagine fast forward a few years and you see how big his dad is. My partner, 6'5". You know, you see how big his dad is. Imagine this happening to Max, and Max feeling threatened. And they were like, well, I'd bust a cap to somebody's ass. I mean, you know, Max is my boy. Max is like my own son. And it was just like,
well,
seriously.
I mean, that makes sense though. It makes sense though, because America is still so heavily segregated. America is still, ever since the 60s, America has only become more segregated, even as we tell ourselves we're not. Even as we tell ourselves that we believe in these sort of liberal ideals of integration and coexistence and empathy, we go through our lives without seeing people of different color all the time. 75% of us go through our lives without seeing people, without having a meaningful relationship with someone of color or a white person, because that's just the way the structures of America exist. And so I struggle with this as well, but ultimately, the best way to teach empathy is to coexist with somebody, is to date them, is to play sports with them. What? Okay, fine. But
I love how you got to slip in commentary about your dating life, dude. I mean, I guess I did it too. I said, well, my partner's 6'5". I got me a big ass black man. Insecure.
I'm not insecure. I'm average height. Like, you're
seen the show? You're so stupid. The show Insecure.
No, anyway. But see, but what you described to me, when I think of that, I don't want to reduce everything down to capitalism, because I think that was a really big issue with Bernie Sanders' campaign, where he was unable to explain how he was getting from point A to point B. And this was my critique of his campaign from the beginning. Even if you think that everything is reducible down to capitalism, if everything is reducible down to class, people don't see the world that way. 100%. Even if you understand that race is a social construct, it has a meaningful effect on people's lives and the way they perceive their lives. So if you think that the world reduces down to class, you need to explain why that is. And so when we talk about people coexisting in this sort of competition, what I think about is, you know, it's very hard to explain to people why, like, these sort of liberal ideals under the framework of capitalism. The best example I can come up with, it's very hard to explain to people why affirmative action should be a thing under the framework of capitalism. Why should we help people compete with you? We don't have that kind of framework anymore where it makes sense for people to care about the success of others, because capitalism is not that framework. We need to just dissolve that framework and say, listen, a country that does not utilize 13% of its population or 51% of its population, that doesn't educate them, that doesn't hire them, that doesn't pay them to the full extent possible, is not a free country. It's not a productive country. We do worse. It's like Martin Luther King Jr. said, racism is a congenital disorder. I mean, if my heart is diseased, my lungs are not doing well. They might be doing better, but we've conditioned white people, poor white people, middle class white people, upright class men. We've conditioned men over women to think that, oh, we have a sexist system, and under a sexist system, men win. It's like, no. Under a sexist system, under a racist system, men don't win. White people don't win. They just do better. No one is the winner. No one is the winner,
except for Donald Trump.
Extremely wealthy, but ultimately, you know, I hear people talk a lot about identity politics, and I'm a fan of identity politics when they're done right. But we have ignored the lessons of the past 30 years of feminism. We've adopted the lexicon, but we've ignored the lessons. I hear people use the word intersectional, don't know what the hell it means. It's just like,
you know what? I had to push back too, like, so because of a friend who's a big organizer, who's very big in the grassroots burning stuff, had posted about how someone needs to get Dr. Reed to write something about identity politics and basically why it needs to die. And I don't think that identity politics itself is not the issue. Identity politics arose and has always had a very specific place. I'm tired of people who want to get rid of identity politics. And I find a lot of white liberals are saying we don't need identity politics. The frick we don't. I'm trying not to curse tonight, you guys. But we do. I mean, we do need Black studies programs. We do need Chicano studies. We do need women's studies. We do need Lat Crit. We do need these things because otherwise they're not being, it's not like this is being absorbed and taught as a part of traditional curriculums within various, degree programs. It's not being taught in public schools. So we do need this discourse. However, I absolutely agree with you. It has been absolutely bastardized. It's been adopted for these so woke neoliberals that want to convince you that they're the good guys. You need to come get on our team, but really it's only to elevate them and uplift and advance their own damn platforms. Absolutely. We and tying this into the election, right? Day 2, Donald Trump freaking blew everyone's mind 2 days ago. And I'll get into another piece real quick that I saw earlier that someone shared with me, and I kind of see what they're talking about, but then I kind of think it's just another excuse for Hillary Clinton. I'm tired of people making excuses for her and making this all about how America was racist and sexist. So I understand when people are in a rush to say identity politics is bad. It's not that identity politics is bad. It's the fact that we have allowed the establishment and neoliberalism to use identity politics as a weapon. It's been weaponized versus being a tool for liberating and expanding opportunity in the minds of people and the souls of people around us. And that's what so much of what they do with what otherwise is something that's good and beneficial. There was a piece earlier about how the alt-right is radicalizing young white men online, and that through various trainings, in Reddit and other stuff, they were coached on how to appear to be more moderate and were really, secret Trump supporters. I mean, there's some really insidious stuff, but on the flip side, I feel like the Hillary campaign and supporters and operatives are going through so much to rehabilitate this as a win for her. I haven't checked the updated totals because, there are still votes that are updated, but they're saying that with numbers. One of my girlfriends who I was on the phone with when we were first getting ready to set up, she was telling me that from what she was reading is that they're saying that it's possible that the vote might actually shift back to him having the popular vote as well, with more numbers still coming in. So, I mean, it's just like they're trying to rehabilitate things. They've made this. That's why they've bastardized. They've taken the language of identity, taken the language of
they're embarrassed.
They're embarrassed, and
they should be.
They're embarrassed.
Their job.
They're embarrassed, and this is like it's so woke colonialism, right? It's like it's liberal colonialism happening, and we have so many people, activists and others, who have allowed themselves and allowed what should be a liberation political environment be co-opted and stolen, basically, to help further the agenda of the one percenters. Like it's so problematic. Someone said the petition for the Electoral College to change their vote in December. Yeah. So here's the thing, right? So like you have Peter Dowell who's trying so hard. God bless him. I'm trying to get blocked by him. We were arguing with Jeffrey Wright today. I'm trying. I mean, I'm in troll. I'm in petty mode, and like I don't take any pleasure from being right. You know what I'm saying?
I do.
Well, I don't take any pleasure in being right. I've had people on my timeline all day long, my mentions on Twitter all day long. Well, you Bernie supporters, like we had. Let me talk. I'm gonna switch topics for a second. I know I'm jumping around.
You are.
Freaking Hillary bros, because there's so much going on, right? It's hard because there's so much going on and so much going through my head, which is why I'm even up right now doing this. Freaking Hillary bros, right? So we had Hillary bros attacking Karen Open Eyes. So you have a queer Muslim woman and you have a Black woman being attacked by white male liberals on Twitter who support Hillary Clinton because we didn't get out the vote for her. So I had to ask these people. I said, was you getting that working in Wisconsin? Huh? Was you on that? Was you on your job? You wasn't on your job, dude.
Of course,
was you on your job in Michigan?
They don't gotta work. They don't gotta work for that. They deserve it. She deserves it by name.
Hillary men. But
that's the thing. What you see with the Hillary Clinton supporters is something that is incredibly dangerous, and it dissolves this illusion that people only act like assholes on the internet because of anonymity. And like if you give anyone an excuse to show their true colors, they'll take it. The Hillary Clinton supporters as soon as they became able to couch their racism and sexism and Islamophobia and homophobia in some kind of veil, like I'm the true liberal because I'm supporting a woman, they went ham.
Because who were we talking about this? Was it you and I talking about this? Like how some of David Pakman's like following is actually like he really got more popular when, because he has people, he ended up supporting Hillary Clinton, but he has a lot of people who follow and support him who
I think that's it. I mean, I think it's a little bit of a different thing. I'm thinking more of Chris Hedges. Not Chris Hedges. Sorry, Chris Hayes. Chris Hedges is cool with me.
Go ahead.
Chris Hayes.
Chris Hayes.
Who could not be any whiter, who felt so comfortable.
Peter Dowell brags about being in a death squad in Lebanon. Oh God.
Jesus Christ.
Oh, I blocked some Hillary trolls today, or I muted them at least because they were ridiculous today.
Yeah. Chris Hayes felt so comfortable mansplaining to Susan Sarandon in the most condescending way possible once he was able to sort of take this tone of, well, see, I'm the true liberal because I'm supporting a woman. I'm the real feminist.
Well, that's the thing, though, right? And that's why I can understand why people are inclined to say identity politics is bad, but that's not what identity politics was created for. That's not why it exists. And yeah, they are very delusional. I mean, even the fact that you have people right now out in the streets protesting and demanding that the Electoral College change their vote. Here's my thing, though, right? And several of you have made this point yourselves. Back in the primary, and I feel bad about not wanting to relitigate the primary and all this stuff, but this is a valid point, right? First off, back in the primary, when we tried to make the case that super delegates that could have swayed things should actually look at, because they can vote however they want to vote. They're not bound. See, because super delegates weren't actually even bound, right? They could have voted however they wanted to vote it. They were not bound. Electoral colleges, electors, while they're technically not bound, they're elected for a reason. Like their vote only exists because of how their state went, right? Like it's a slight, like the super delegates are free agents. And when Bernie was making that case that, I'm more electable, oh, no, that's not what it is. Rules are rules, blah, blah, blah. You can't do that. More people voted. All right. If the super delegate system is A-okay, if the super delegate system is just fine, I don't understand what the problem is with Electoral College. Like you can't have it both ways. You can't be exclusionary in your party, right? You can't be exclusionary in one level of democracy and then demand that everything be open and free and benevolent in another way. And we wouldn't even be having this conversation about the Electoral College. We would not even be having this conversation about how people need to flip their votes. In fact, if Trump supporters were in the streets right now demanding that electors change their vote in support of Trump, they would be outraged. Well, see, they would be calling people unpatriotic. I mean, it would be ridiculous. Okay,
I gotta go in on that because I agree. I'm so technical, but it reveals these Clinton supporters for what they are, and I don't want to paint everyone who's out on the streets as a Clinton supporter because half are and probably another half.
And we already talked about this earlier when we were talking too. Like anti-Trump rallies have been actually happening since early spring during the primaries, and people were grinding and organizing. And if anything, it was the Hillary Clinton supporters, Hillary Clinton herself, who were actually not only denouncing, and Bernie actually had some stern words for supporters too, whatever, for protesters too. But these people weren't out about their protest life 6, 7, 8 months ago. They just weren't. They were not.
But that reveals if what you said it right. These people aren't pro-democracy. They're not they're not adults. They're whiny children and they're cowards. And that's the real truth behind this. A lot of these Hillary Clinton supporters, these Hill bros, and all these people who felt so comfortable lecturing people and lecturing Bernie supporters, lecturing everyone else because they were the pragmatic adults in the race, and Bernie was an idealist and Jill Stein was an idealist. And if you didn't agree, you're a child. They're cowards. They are the cowardly left.
Well, because now it's popular to be anti-establishment.
It's not
even. I don't even know what that word means.
That means against the establishment of the Protestant. I'm sorry, the Anglican Church in England. Anyway,
I just remember some little shit telling me saying that word. Anyway, go ahead.
If you weren't going to protest Clinton's election, the election of Clinton, if you're only okay with protesting the outcome of the election when you lose, then you're not in favor of democracy.
That's what I posed this question.
And this goes back to the Bernie thing. There's a group of Democratic voters, the elite, the privileged, white, upper middle class male voters, who simply believe in the illusion of choice because they want everyone to choose the same thing that they choose. And if you don't choose what they choose, you're wrong, or you're stupid, or you're a child, or you're ignorant, or you're voting against your own self-interest. And it's disgusting. These people out there, and I'm gonna go for real quick. I'm so tired of upper middle class white people on Twitter and on TV asking me how they're going to explain to their upper middle class white daughter that they don't have a white female president to look up to. I don't give a shit. I don't care.
Yeah.
I don't care how you explain. I don't care how you explain to your white daughter that she's only going to be the second best person in the world and not the first. It's like
well, I mean, my daughter actually already thinks that she's going to rule the world and you're going to be calling her supreme leader anyway. So, you know, like, I don't, and that's without a woman president. But no, seriously, I just yeah, so we were I just thought, I'm trying to think real quick because what you were saying was spot on about the way they're, oh yeah, I saw a comment and someone was saying about Soros paying people, right? And so what I was going to say is, like, back when the Chicago one happened, right, these events, there actually are legit people, legit groups actually organizing, and they have a purpose, and they you know, we've seen spontaneous, you know, students, you know, so what the problem is, I do think that we need to call, you know, interference by these major liberal organizations or funders out. I understand why I understand that people who do this work day in, day out, I'm never going to diss on anybody who's able to actually out there and be in the streets and do this work full time. Because I know I can't. You know, I work. Yes. You can try. We'll see if it works. Because I'm manning the controls tonight. We'll see if it works.
I'm watching.
But you can try, but you guys can try though to call in. I got the Skype up, so let's see if this actually works. But the number should be in the description, 678-810-0089. Yes, you can try to call in and we'll see if it works. But one of the things though that bothers me is that there is actually legit organizing. Like the Chicago protest actually was legit. The, you know, anti-Anita Alvarez protest, there was legit organizing that actually happened. And if you believe what came out from the Veritas videos, which we've already talked about that stuff, but if you believe in that stuff, there were antagonizers sent into the midst of legitimate organizing spaces to make Trump look bad. So there was a co-opting of legitimate organizing happening to prop up a narrative by the Clinton campaign. Hello? Hi, Bryce. How are you?
Bryce calling all the shows.
I can hear you. Can you hear him, Brandon?
I can hear him.
Okay, yeah, go.
Okay. So, you know, obviously, you know, organize the way we have to organize and, you know, fight back, you know, this situation. And at the end of the day, you know, we know that Hillary was a horrible candidate. The establishment is horrible, and they put the country in this position. And, you know, obviously, we have to do what we have to do, and if we can, you know, flip the house, and then 2020, you know, we do what we have to do, and, you know, get real progressives and fight strong, we'll be fine. But it's just sad, just the denial of, like, from the establishment, the denial, and then the whole blame game. You want to blame Jill Stein and blame all the progressives and blame all these people. The asinine is stupid. It's your fault. Y'all did it to yourself. Y'all been horrible for a long time, and people are tired of it. I mean, yes, there's lots of people that voted through, obviously people that are racist, whatever, but there are the people that did vote because they are tired of the establishment. But, you know, the establishment is just horrible. Wall Street is horrible. People are tired of it. And it sucks that we're at this point. But then it's like, I guess we have to get to this point in order for the establishment to be ripped apart completely, and that we can really move
Absolutely.
in the direction.
Absolutely.
Bryce is spot on.
Bryce
I mean,
dead on.
And one of the reasons I agree with, I agree with him, and I just want to say, like, one of the reasons I'm not super thrilled about the protest is, like, I just want America to take its medicine. Like this is not surprising. I kind of want America to just take its medicine. This is what we've been working towards for about 50 years, and if it didn't happen now, in 4 years it was going to happen. So let's use this momentum to organize. It's over now. And one of the reasons why it's over is because the DNC puts us in a position where they closed off the channels for legitimate populism, like Ben said, and like I said earlier, and only gave the only recourse for people who were so fed up with the system or who became fed up with the system after the primary was to vote for Trump. And the DNC with their crocodile tears and all of this, like, well, we're going to do things now differently, is with Tim Kaine. God, with Tim Kaine, all their child, like, they have refused to learn their lesson and refused to take any culpability when this was an outcome they were totally okay with. That's what we should be. That's what we should remember. Through those Podesta emails, we found out that this was something that they were pretty much okay with because they wanted to put Clinton up against Trump or Carson or Cruz over Bernie. So Bernie was their third prior. That's sort of Bernie was their biggest enemy, and to the extent that Trump was viewed as a reasonable outcome for them if it meant Bernie didn't get into office.
So yeah, I absolutely agree. And even as they're looking forward, right? Like I mentioned, you guys, I don't know if any of you got a chance to be on the DFA call that happened earlier this evening, but one of the things that came up during the course of the call, the call was supposed to be Robert Wright, Keith Ellison, and Pramila. And apparently Howard Dean was on the call as well. And my girlfriend who was filling me in, because like I said, I was on a different call and didn't get a chance to make them. When she was saying it seemed awkward when he got on, like I was like, well, he wasn't listed. He wasn't supposed to be on the call. But apparently, Howard Dean has put his name in to be DNC chair again. And Bernie, if you guys saw earlier today, has been pushing actually for Keith Ellison to be DNC chair. So what I really thought was interesting from when she was giving me the recon and letting me know the details was the fact that actually several of the speakers, except for Howard Dean, all reiterated the fact that it's probably time to build a new third party. I mean, the Democratic Party needs to be completely stripped down and started over, but then there needs to be a third party. And this is, Keith Ellison was reportedly said this. Pramila said this. My friend was also really encouraged by the way Pramila spoke about various issues as well. It was somber, but if this progressive wing can actually take control, we'll see. But I don't think they're going to go down without a fight because they're spinning the rhetoric and narrative that Hillary's strong. She got this, that, and the other. Hold on for a second, caller. If you're calling, call back in. Hello? No, I didn't pick up. If you're calling, call back in. Because
of course, the power structure is not ready to release the reins yet because they'll never be ready to release the reins. It has to be wrestled from their grip, and this comes down to. And I'm sure you saw what's that chick? I'm sorry, I want to say chick. What's that woman on Twitter's name? Like Angry Black Lady or Imani something? I know she's popular or something. Where she's like, a lot of people who are sore losers are now quitting politics. It's like, oh, well, I lost, so now I'm quitting politics. I'm like, bye, Felicia. Like, who cares? Like, you're a coward. You were always a coward. You were pro Hillary because you felt that she was going to win. She was the lock. And all these people out there who were making predictions a month ago saying how Trump had no chance, they need to lose their jobs, man. It's like HuffPo needs to be shut down. 538 needs to check all the calculators they use. It's crazy.
No, I agree. I don't know what I did to Skype. Skype just worked for Bryce and now it's not working again.
I have no interest. A lot of members of the left are incredibly cowardly, and that's why they suck up to power. Mm-hmm. I don't know why that is. I don't know what it is about being upper middle class white and leftist, or even black and leftist, really upper middle class and leftist, that makes people sort of kowtow to power. But 2 weeks ago, not even 2 weeks, 3 days ago, Trump was a violent rapist, and now he's now he needs to be my friend.
Okay, yeah, we really do need to talk about that, right? Because he I don't know why I can't accept your call.
Sorry, one second. HuffPo gave Hillary Clinton a 98.6% chance of winning. And then they changed their prediction once she started to lose. 538 gave Trump a 30% chance of winning until he started to win. It was like, oh, now it's 55. That doesn't count. All bets were in. All bets were in before the race started.
There we go. I don't know why it wasn't working before. Hello, caller. What's your name? Where are you calling from? And what's your question or comment tonight? Hey.
My name is Brandon, and I'm calling to speak with Anoa and Brandon about healthcare and the future of the Democratic Party.
Brandon to speak with Anoa and Brandon. How you doing, Brandon?
Good. How are you?
I got Skype working, so I'm doing pretty okay. It's a wild feeling right now, honestly. So what? Shoot, lay it on us.
So Anoa, I love following you. I love Brandon's commentary. I was on earlier with Ben. I'm Thurs Fire on Twitter.
Oh, okay, cool.
So there were two things that I wanted to bring up. One, this recent election, I think one thing that's been really overlooked is that the Democrats completely abandoned the Medicare for all option, and they went with this Hillary Clinton version of incremental change for the Affordable Care Act, when the Republicans and Donald Trump were claiming that they're going to repeal Obamacare, and people have been suffering through higher premium costs, and we needed to give them an alternative option, and instead Hillary Clinton was pushing, well, we're just going to tweak it.
Right.
And I think that was a big mistake by the Democrats, and it was something that Bernie really picked up on.
Right. Absolutely. Thank you. Did you want to make another comment, or because I'm going to respond, but I wasn't sure if you had something else.
The other thing I wanted to mention was just that with the, it's ironic that given what I just said, that Howard Dean, a healthcare lobbyist now, wants to try and pick up the slack and head the Democratic Party. And I think that's completely tone deaf and absurd. And I think they really need to be taking their cues from the Bernie Sanders, Tulsi Gabbard, and Elizabeth Warren of the party. And they should probably be tuning into Progressive Army and
they won't do that. They won't like what they see.
To really get an idea of what people want going forward. So keep up the good work, and I love what you guys are doing.
Appreciate it. Thank you so much. I'm glad you got to call in.
You have the best name in the world. The
best name for a boy.
Name in the world. But no,
best name for a boy.
that speaks to the hubris of the Democratic Party this time around. I think this is the first time that everything was stripped bare in terms of what the Democrats were truly about. And that was fear, entitlement, and basically just, not so much different from the Republicans. Clinton didn't campaign in Wisconsin. She didn't really go to the Rust Belt at all because she felt like she was the only option for the Democrats were the only option for minorities, for poor people, because she felt like the Republicans.
Wow.
It was well accepted the Republicans had nothing to offer the poor people. But here's my thing, and I think
we have another caller. Hi, caller. What's your name and where you calling from, and what's your question or comment? Hello, caller. Hello. Okay, try calling back.
Well, let me.
Go ahead and finish your point.
So like what they didn't count on was the fact that Donald Trump was preaching a message of faux populism. But at the same time, I think that a lot of people are kind of confused, and I'm gonna put forth theory. A lot of people are making the comment that the poor people, the poor whites, a lot of the blacks, a lot of the people who felt disenfranchised by the establishment, that somehow they were stupid because Donald Trump isn't going to keep his promise of economic populism. I don't think a lot of people thought that he was. I don't think people are that dumb. I think a lot of poor people, a lot of poor whites simply were happy to have someone in power, speak for them for once in their lives. And so like at a certain point, the Democratic establishment created a scenario where the worth of a large portion of the worth of the vote of a large portion of America was simply someone coming out and saying, if you build cars outside of America and you try to bring them back, I'm going to charge you a 35% tariff on it, and you're going to build cars in America because I'm tired of exporting jobs. And just saying that to them was worth their vote, because the Democrats never do that. Hillary Clinton's slogan, we keep going back to this. Her slogan was so bad.
What was her first slogan, right? Because Stronger Together, I'm with her, but it was something else at first, wasn't it? Didn't she have something else and then she kind of changed to Stronger? Or was it I'm with her first? Wasn't that her? She had a slogan at first, and that's all it was it was just about her. And then they came up with Stronger Together, like after, like Bernie's slogans were all like more communal, and then all of a sudden she comes with Stronger Together. Like, so it was very her focus.
But she had, I mean, even with the Stronger Together, she had no interest in unifying the party. Even after
she had to change it numerous times. She did.
Yeah. Throughout the primary, the Democratic establishment did nothing but suppress their own voting base. They did nothing but bully them. And then after, at the DNC, Sarah Silverman got up on stage and called Bernie supporters children.
Well, this is
Are
the
you
problem.
out of
Well,
your
this is the
damn
problem.
mind?
Well, this is the problem. And I actually have been skeptical and not like, celebrity endorsements are cool and everything. And it was cool when Bernie started to get some too. I will admit that. But at the same time, I have found celebrity endorsers to be problematic and really not very useful. And a lot of times celebrities don't even know what the hell they're talking about. Like Sarah Silverman was very problematic for me anyway, because one, she's not funny. Two, she's a problematic white feminist who gets last. Okay, well.
Okay.
Hi, caller. You're on the air. What's your name, question, or comment? Where are you calling from? Hello? Hello?
Hello?
Hi.
Can you hear me now?
I can hear you now. Good. What's going on? What's your question and name? Where are you?
This is Daniel. I'm calling from Hawaii, and I don't know what the fuck y'all are still doing up. I'm just getting off work. It's 6:30 here. I know it must be, 12:30 over there?
11:30 here on the East Coast. You don't know what we're doing up. Dude, like, it's...
Sorry, that's all good, but I did want to say this, Everybody's so shocked about this, but it's not really all that shocking. You had Trump, which is, even though he's not really an outsider, he pretty much plays the role of an outsider, and everybody's fed up and sick and tired of the establishment. Hillary was literally the worst candidate they could have picked. If it was Bernie, he would have won. That's that simple. But also, too, is, this only goes to show that the duopoly of the Republican and the Democrats, that's not the answer. We need a third party. Now, I don't know how you're going to go about doing that or anything like that, but until a third party can actually be solidified and actually be competitive, nothing's going to change. Everything's going to keep on being what it is. We're going to keep on having this incrementalism, and we're going to keep on being in stagnation. And right now, the last thing we need is stagnation and incrementalism.
I agree.
Yeah,
I agree.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for calling us, and I hope you enjoy your evening after a good day at work. Thank you.
I think there are short-term goals and there are long-term goals. In the short term, we need to work on getting real progressive voices in positions of power in the Democratic Party. And then the long-term goal over the course of the next 2 or 3 decades needs to be a multi-party system. We can do both at the same time. This does not have to be one of those situations where we only can do one. We start the local level and start supporting stuff like Socialist Alternative, Green Party at your local level, Libertarian Party, Workers Party, Working Families Party, things like that at your local level. And then at the main level, we take over the DNC at the same time. It's not one or the other. It can never be one or the other.
I think having and that's, people talk about the insider outsider strategy too, right? Like, I think that's absolutely right. You do need to build out. I mean, and that's, like I said, what my friend was telling me from the call, that seemed to be part of a portion of the conversation that was happening, that we need to have both of these things going on. It makes for a more robust, that makes me feel a bit better that there are people like Keith Ellison, like Pramila, who exist, in these arenas, who are saying, like, look, this makes for a robust democracy. This is why we're involved. This is what we want to see happen. And I understand that people, like, this is not even a pitch for being part of the Democratic Party. Like, I had one of the young ladies I know here that has organized, was a pro-Bernie Latina. She was like, I need everybody to come to the county Dems meeting, and I was going to rearrange picking up my kids and stuff, and I was going to go, but then I'm like, I'm torn, right? Because on the one hand, I do want to help support people who are trying to make these changes within these local committees and stuff like that. But at the same time, I don't care to give the Democrats my time and energy. Right. And so, but I do think we need to find a way to work within whatever party system we're talking about, whether we're talking about a PSO, Working Family Party, Working World, Green Party, because there's so many other parties out there besides just the Green Party, what we're talking about doing exactly, how that looks going forward. Hold on for a second, you guys. Hi, caller. What's your name? Where are you calling from? What's your comment or question?
Hey, Anoa, this is Nick from Oregon.
Hi, Nick. How are you?
Good to be on the show. Hey, so I was going to talk to Brandon's point for just a second about, I think I lost it, but just kind of getting these progressive voices together and just kind of shoot off idea. But I'm trying to remember the name. I think it's called the WTO protests or rallies. I don't know enough about it, but my friend was telling me about it, and it's essentially the idea that a whole bunch of environmentalists got together and said, like, here's what we're doing, here's what we're setting forth, we're going to work on this. And I was wondering maybe if, like, I don't know, I think Brandon would enjoy this a lot, but getting a whole bunch of at least prominent progressives of our time and saying, hey, like, what does it mean? What are progressives here for? What are we really all about? Because there's a lot of progressives that'll say, you know, hey, I'm progressive, but, you know, I also hate black people. Or I'm progressive, but, you know,
That's me.
I hate the working class.
That happens, but yeah.
So what are we? So, yeah, I just want to see if maybe it's possible to get, I want to see Ben do it. I want to see you do it. Brandon always has very fiery ideas, to say the least. But yeah, I just want to see people get together and really like define what it means. I mean, maybe not necessarily super strict terms, but just something that says, you know, hey, this is who we are. This is totally what we are all about.
Well, okay, so
absolutely. Thank you for calling in.
Thank you for your point and for complimenting me. I always do have great ideas, but don't ever compliment me because I'm kind of a scumbag. But okay, we need to put a moratorium on the calls for a second, or at least turn the sound off so I can.
I'm trying to figure that out. Come on now, you guys.
I'm going to respond.
Hello, hi, caller. Wait 1 second, caller, because I answered the call. Hi.
Hi. How you doing? It's me, Ogechi. I called in, I think like a few weeks ago.
Hi, how are you?
I'm fine. I'm calling from Oak Park, Illinois. And
all right.
Yeah.
I almost moved to Oak Park. How you doing?
Liar.
No, I actually did, because Oak Park has decent schools, and it wasn't that expensive when I was first moving to Chicago with my kids. But go ahead. I'm so sorry.
No. It's fine. I guess, like, for me, what I've been noticing about this election, but I guess, like, in terms of moving forward, something that I realize that might be able to be beneficial is, like, looking at the ballot initiatives that were being passed.
Okay.
And maybe, like, I don't know, maybe, like, local levels and, like, state levels, that might be a possible path moving forward. And also, like, I guess in terms of how, like, with Trump, is that I remember, like, reading an article on The Guardian about what Naomi Klein, she wrote an opinion piece on The Guardian about how Dallas class pretty much feels the U.S. state. And she talked about how it was really the rich because of the fact that the Clintons were kind of their toast of their, like, group, and that pretty much, whenever you kind of saw that, they smelled this bullshit that Clinton was trying to sell, and they're like, no, and that was, like, my thing, and everything that they've been doing was a huge optics problem, like, even though they technically fired Schultz, they picked Tim Kaine, they got Podesta, they got Salazar, every single chance that they had to try and, like, fix themselves, they're not. And I don't think that, honestly, I don't, because, like, looking at, like, trying to vote Tim Kaine to be the next one, I'm like, dude, no one is like, stop with the shit, stop. I, like, want to, like, I don't know, take whoever wins by a hand and, like, shake them. I'm like, stop. This is insane. And I'm like, this is not, like, chess. There are real lives on the line here. And I don't know. like for that, and so I guess moving forward is that if you want, like, back to the Guardian article, she was like, for the Democratic Party, either you're going to have to wrestle that power away from the third wave Democrats, or it needs to be banded altogether. Because it's not going to work. And I really like what Pramila was saying, because, I mean, for me, I don't know if the Green Party is going to get to that level by not even by 2020, by like 2018, the Green Party is going to have to show some serious prominence in that. And I do agree with you with on how they have outreach problems. Because I'm like, I was in Indiana, like in northern Indiana. Yeah, I almost never heard of the Green Party until I came to Chicago.
Right.
So it's going to, I'm like, I don't know. Like, if you're going to be prominent, you're going to have to stick with your ground game.
Right.
And,
right. Exactly.
Yeah.
I appreciate you for calling in. Thank you. And thank you for listening.
Thank you. And I need that. I want to address both callers.
Go ahead and address both callers. Nick made a good point. Go ahead.
And so, but I think Nick's point gets to the fundamental question of whether you can actually even have a two-party system and have it be worthwhile. Can you actually separate? Are people's politics so simple that you can separate them into left and right and have that mean anything? And I would argue no. You simply can't. You simply cannot. People are too complicated, and politics, speaks to almost every facet of our social life, economic material conditions, that there are plenty of people who are pro-environment but anti-gay. There are plenty of people who, like our caller Nick said, are pro-economic, or rather pro social security state but anti-black. There are plenty of people whose politics are more complicated than I'm either for everything or I'm against everything. And so ultimately, the biggest problem with our system is that if you have two proto-political parties that at their highest levels are functionally controlled by the exact same interests, what they will be arguing about is essentially nothing. Right. They will devolve very quickly into antagonism and oppositional politics. What I will say about the way American Democrats, Republicans work, the Democrats rely much more heavily on Republicans than Republicans rely on Democrats. And by that, I mean, the Republicans are a very proactive party. They get out there and do things. They have ideas.
That's a good. Well, and they also have stuff to unite around, right? Like, we don't like Mexicans. Okay. Well, I mean, it's not a good thing to rally around, but they can figure out some way to rally around, and they understand about leveraging power. Well, Democrats are all over the damn place, and they're too busy with this mishmash of issues, which, I mean, happens, but Democrats don't really have anything. That's why Hope and Change was so, motivational in 2008, because there hadn't been anything to really pull Democrats together. And then this is why they fell apart this time, because there wasn't anything happening. After you have the dismissive, treatment of Bernie Sanders supporters and that rising movement, which is still, ongoing in different ways. You don't really have anything to motivate people besides fear. And fear is a mind killer.
Fear is the mind killer. But see, that's the thing. The Republican Party, with their base, they keep their base in a state of constant aggrievement. They keep their base in a state of constant fear and mobilization. The Republican base does not go to sleep ever. They always have a problem. They always have something to be upset about, whether it be Mexicans, because what the Republican Party is upset about is this culture for an America that never existed anywhere but except their head. And it's represented by this notion that, okay, well, since I can't call someone the N-word in public and still be elected sheriff in any legitimate place, there's something wrong with America. But the problem with the Democratic base, the problem with liberals, the problem with the establishment liberals is they simply don't see the stakes in a lot of things. They're not. The Democratic Party is at the highest levels are very bad. And this is with the problem with Obama in 2008. They demobilized their base immediately because what they understand is that their base does not have parallel interests to theirs. So once they're done with them, the Democrats throw their base away immediately. And so the Democratic base is incredibly prone to waking up, getting really angry, and then going to sleep very quickly every time. And so you can't mobilize them very quickly. You can't get them around any issue. Where the Republican base, they're always ready to go. They're always angry. They're all like, that's why it's so easy to get them out for midterms. That's why it's so easy to get them out to vote at the local level, because they always have a fucking problem. They always have a problem. The Democratic base, most Democrats are okay with the status quo.
And that's a problem. And that is a problem. But it's not even that most Democrats. It's the ones who show up, right? The ones who show up are the ones who feel like they have a stake in the system, and that's why they show up. They show up to maintain the system that they feel is theirs. The people who don't show up, the 47, 49, 48% that did not engage, did not participate. Democrats did not. That's what people say. People say Democrats did not show up. Democrats did not show up. There are voters who did not show up, quote unquote, at the polls based on the message of doom and gloom, apocalypse and fear. If the world is about to end, then you gonna do that on your own. I'm gonna go over here and get this money and handle my business. I'm not taking off work to go vote. I'm not going to do any of those things. And we can say that that's a problematic mentality or whatever the case may be. But when you're not willing to listen to the people and the needs and what's going on in communities across the country, like, it's not registering, and this is a problem we have, right? We've had a breakdown in civic engagement in civic society, almost to the extent that people the connection, because I understood people abstaining from voting for president, right? And I'm not mad at people who didn't vote, but there are places where people didn't vote for down ballot candidates, right? People didn't vote for people going to Congress, going into the Senate. Like, not only did they fall down on the damn job in Pennsylvania in terms of, that there was a woman on the ballot for Senate, right? And McGinty, she's problematic and got her own issues. But like, one of my friends was telling me, actually Courtney, who's in the, shout out to Courtney. I see y'all going back and forth. That's all right though. Courtney knows her stuff. One of the things we were talking about earlier when we spoke, because she's in Philly, we were talking about how like McGinty didn't have like enough money at times, and I was talking about somebody this too. Hillary Clinton had a massive war chest, and she spent that money hiring celebrities because we know she pays people to hang out with her. She's a rich kid at school that pays people to be her friend. Hey, Lakeisha. Hey, Anastasia. Hey, Rome.
Okay. Well, I'm gonna go. I'm gonna go while you're doing that. So no, but I just want to make a quick point. This goes down to like the fundamental myths about the Democrats believe about themselves, and how it prevents their mobilization, and what Republicans believe about themselves, and how it gets their mobilization out. Republicans view themselves as being on the side of moral righteousness, and that they are defending something inherent about America from changing. Democrats view themselves as being on the side of intellectual superiority, which lends itself to cynicism and apathy. And I think we saw a lot of that with the Clinton support at the highest level. This notion of inevitability, this notion of I'm the smartest person in the room, and why don't you just understand what I understand? The Democrats are very prone to think very highly of themselves intellectually, and thus dismiss the need to actually do anything other than be smug. There are so many smug liberals on TV sticking their nose at everyone who does not think like they are, as though they are somehow voting against their own interests, that they didn't see us coming. And I'll say it and say it again. If you can't understand how Donald Trump won in America after the past 40 years, you don't deserve to have a TV show. You barely deserve to have a college degree, because this shit is obvious. It's like, I'm not saying I saw him winning. I'm saying if you find this completely surprising, you don't know what you're talking about. You literally don't understand anything about America outside of your own little bubble. This is
I got a chance to check out, and probably because I tuned out Nate Silver, so I got a chance to look at the piece that Courtney was trying to drop the link into. So it was a piece by Nate Silver on their politics blog or whatever, a part of their coverage. November 3rd, he wrote this election update: why Clinton's position is worse than Obama's. Okay, so this is actually really beautiful, because this actually helps me refute a point that keeps being floated around, that she was somehow fooled by bad polling. And so one of the things that they've been saying, and it goes back to this article and stream that's been floating around about how the alt-right has been radicalizing young white men online through Reddit primarily, and we're training them to be deceptive so they when they would get polled, which is kind of stupid because we know a lot of the polling had started to not even count millennials, right? Like they weren't even polling millennials in a lot of these polls. So that was a problem. But you know, so this article is talking about it's November 3rd, so it's like 5 days or so before the election or whatever, and it's talking about basically how she was in trouble in several places. And it says, you know, it lists Nevada, Florida, North Carolina as highly competitive states, i.e. states she could probably lose. You know, and he's going through the final count, and he still ultimately has her winning, but he has her barely winning, right? Like just eking it out. And so, but everyone is right about in terms of the modeling and stuff. And HuffPost, which also has problematic ass modeling, HuffPost did kind of clap back at him in a piece about, I don't know if it was this piece in particular, but it did kind of clap back because they were saying like, well, you know, the way he adjusts his modeling isn't just straight on the data. He adjusts for, you know, things that really aren't measurable, right? But one thing is clear from what he's saying here is that her electoral college position, which they knew going in, I don't really see them challenging the electoral college. I don't see them participating or encouraging. I think they'll encourage what's going on. I really don't think they should either. There's no reason to. I mean, I understand about the voter suppression. This is one thing that we got into our conversation earlier. The Democrats, they only attack voter suppression when they need those votes. Like, this is the problem with Democrats. Like, right, like mainstream establishment Democrat leadership, like the situation in Florida. And, you know, you got disenfranchised black voters in Florida in 2000, and you have the black campaign manager saying, "Nah, we're not going to pursue that."
Of course not, because
like,
but see, like it's
where they do that at? It's the Democratic Party.
Two things. Nick asked me a question in the chat. I assume he knows that I'm also a BS opinion in the chat. Yes, you can hit me up on Twitter anytime you want. My Twitter handle is at pretty bad lefty. Spells like, you know, how you would expect, you know, pretty then bad then lefty. So yeah.
So we so if you guys are, I mean, thank you guys for coming in, and we decided to just come in and do a late show with Anoa and Brandon after the BPD show. Ben, and see, let me just talk about Ben. I love Ben dearly, but Ben knew we were coming on after him. He even said it to you guys. He went like 45 minutes over tonight, but that's okay because there's so much going on.
There is so much going on, but like honestly, these people, man, these people and like these people on the left, these Rachel Maddows, these Chris Hayeses, all of these people who were dead ass wrong and should have been able to understand why they were wrong. Dead wrong. They now still feel comfortable making new predictions, and and like they want to punch down, they want to punch left, they want to do everything but look at themselves and say, okay, why was I wrong? Perhaps maybe it wasn't racism and sexism. Like I keep saying Clinton lost because of sexism is like saying OJ got arrested because of racism.
And what they don't see, bear true. All they're doing, there is no rehabilitating the Democratic Party as it stands right now. And just to go back to another point you made about how everyone is just piling on about how, well, Trump was reasonable. You know, Ben talked about this earlier. Trump was really cordial and talked about, he said he really respects the president. How you really respect that man when you've been trashing him for like the last 6 years? Like, what are you talking about? Like, for real? Clinton. All of a sudden, but yeah, that's true. So did Hillary Clinton, but she didn't slyly. Like, he's been grinding. Like, he just been so grinding. But what really got me was Bill de Blasio, right? Bill de Blasio, yeah, de Blasio, like, dude. And why does he have a police shield as his profile pic on Twitter? Bill de Blasio,
they hate him so bad in New York City.
Bill de Blasio was all on that. Well, you know, we just need to be peaceful and respect them. Why the hell y'all be so ready to hug and see? This is what I don't understand. But see, that's the problem about Democrats too.
Because it was a game.
Republicans play that get money game, right? Like we gonna kick it real and dirty right quick, right? Like Republicans is like, yeah, we gonna get this money, we gonna do this thing, we gonna win this. You know what I'm saying? We gonna be president. Not only are we gonna get the presidency, we gonna have Congress on lock. They are gangster. They are thugs
because they're proactive. That's what I was saying earlier.
The Tea Party. You don't have to like the Tea Party, but the Tea Party went up in there in 2010 and they wrecked shop and handled business. They didn't get anything accomplished. They didn't do a damn thing. but they was up in the place.
The Democratic Party is entirely reactive. They define themselves by whatever the Republican Party is not, and they do that as a way to obscure their own neoliberal policies. Period. And someone in the a chat brought up the fact that this election at least it exposed all of the faux progressives in the mainstream media and also the new left media like HuffPo, Salon, Daily Beast, Sam Cedar, all these places where like Tom Hartman, all these places where these people pretended like they were on our side. But here's the thing, like, and I think that people like Chris Hedges, and this time I do mean Chris Hedges, they present everything like a big conspiracy sometimes. Like all these people were just trying to manufacture consent and gaslight everybody. It's like, no, what the reality is that we talked about it before. These people just exist in a bubble, and it's not a media bubble. It's an upper middle class bubble, and everyone who
ascribes to that level as well, right?
Because it's not
because you got your Bakari sellers, you got quite a few other folks, who actually like exist in that realm as well.
Yeah, and it's not because so it's not just people at BuzzFeed hang out, people at Vox. It's people at BuzzFeed who all their friends are in marketing and they hang out together. And for them, Clinton was just it made so much sense in the world. And that's why I talk about the oligarchy as being something besides the super rich. The oligarchy is not just the top 0.1% or top 1%. It is the top 20% of America that has been left there by the status quo and simply cannot understand why everyone else is so upset. So there are some people out there who simply cannot understand why for 80% of Americans, Clinton being the lesser of two evils was something that they had to think about. Because you had to really consider it. Okay, well, really, is she? Like, if I don't care that Trump uses bad language, is she really the lesser of two evils? Yeah, but the degree to which she's lesser of two evil.
Well, it just depends on what you're talking about too, right? Like everyone. What's crazy is, I saw someone tweet out earlier today about how Trump is basically giving support to the Israeli apartheid, and I'm like, you do realize like Hillary Clinton and Bibi are like besties, and she'd be basically over there cutting the ribbon on new illegal settlements like her tomorrow if she could.
Exactly. Yeah, this comes down to like honestly, if you think about this for a second, if you lived in some place like Pakistan or the Middle East in general, do you think that the average person in the Middle East they could tell a difference of who was the president of the United States between 2007 and 2009 or from between 2007 and 2014? No, because if anything, they would think things got worse. Like shit got worse over there. So when you claim that someone's the lesser of two evils, understand what you're saying. They're the lesser of two evils for you, and you are not qualified, especially if you're upper middle class person, to explain to cajole someone who's poorer than you and explain to them why Clinton was the lesser of two evils for them. And that was my problem with the upper middle class white pundits. They were so
Wendy?
ready.
Yeah. Hey, girl. Everybody, we got Wendy Muse on the line. She's the resident edge snatcher. Because Hillary don't really care about black people, y'all. What's up, Wendy?
Hi. So I can't remember who I got this from, but I was looking at Trump's first 100 days. And I wanted to bring this up really briefly because you all had touched on some of the things that Hillary had promised to do, or like obviously the hinting at doing about Israeli settlements and things like that people are kind of denying or like have some sort of strange memory loss about. And I think it's important for us to think about, first of all, what Hillary would have done, what Obama might do, and then what Trump has promised to do going forward. So really briefly,
Go ahead.
I'm concerned personally that a lot of the things that Obama and Hillary have promised to do and that Obama perhaps will do in the next coming months we have will be something that's so negative, but that people will forgive because Trump is about to be president, right? And Trump is our incoming president. So no matter what, I mean, Obama could literally like bomb any country he wants at this point and get away with it because Trump is the incoming president. So people will say, well, at least it's not Trump, like whatever Obama's doing now will get brushed under the rug, including the TPP in ways that I don't think we've ever expected. And I personally think that even people who were progressive and voted for either Hillary out of fear or who voted for Joe Stein or who were big Bernie supporters who were against the TPP, I think right now we're in a state of trauma, and it's going to be really difficult, I think, for people to battle Obama at this point, or even potentially the DNC, because they haven't, and people are protesting outside of Trump Tower, but they're not protesting outside of the freaking DNC. You know, like, this is where it needs to be. So I looked at this platform, and when you all get a chance, please take a look at it. It's on Vox. I'll post it on my Twitter page.
Okay.
But it's insane. I mean, when you're reading like the first 10 points, you're like, oh yeah, that sounds good. He wants to get money out of politics. He wants to, you know, end corporate lobbying with government. He wants to end foreign lobbying by U.S. officials. Like, all sorts of stuff that sounds like a very populist, progressive platform when it comes to the revolving door and money in politics and aspects. And I mean, then obviously he starts going into building the wall and these ridiculous proposals about foreign policy. But I think one of the things we have to keep in mind, as much as an awful candidate as he is, as much as an awful person he is, as awful as his followers may be, not all, of course, but many that we've dealt with are. One of the things we have to keep in mind as progressives, as going forward, he's going to be our president, whether we like it or not. And we have to be able to find these points at which we as progressives can come together with him that can then help perhaps make a better future for a progressive run in 2020 or subsequent elections. So if you want to get money out of politics, cool. I may hate your policy on China. I may hate your policy on whatever, fill in the blank policy about race in this country, but I agree that we should get money out of politics. I agree that we shouldn't allow government officials to be lobbyists for foreign countries or lobbyists for corporations. So good. I may hate your environmental policy, but I like that you allow for school choice. You know what I mean? So we're going to have to find these points where we can actually not just reason with, but then literally agree directly, even if we have very different motivations. But agree with these right-wingers to say, look, this is where we have a point together. And this is a point together that we can help marginalized communities that you guys hate, even though, you know, like, that's not what they're not going to say, like, school choice might be good for, like, people of color too. But that's our motivation.
Right.
We have to go into this process thinking of where we can come together with these people without compromise and actually get some stuff done. Because between now and 2018, and we have no idea, we don't know what's going to happen in 2018. We don't know if we're going to be able to get anyone into office that really represents us. We need to make sure that we can at least lay a groundwork of, like, you know, cementing progressive policies, whether it's through Republicans or Martians. We have to get it done.
Great. Thank you so much for calling in, Wendy. Absolutely. And dropping, as always, dropping knowledge. If you guys aren't already following her on Twitter, I mean, we work together. She on the squad, but, like, love her dearly. Thank you so much for calling.
Wendy got the bomb ass tweets.
But
Wendy and Kieran.
Okay, Wendy and Kieran dropped bomb tweets, but Wendy is Muse Wendy, MUSEWENIENDI. Hooked on phonics didn't work for me, obviously. MUSEWENDI on Twitter.
I do.
But Wendy has, like, these little syllabi, basically, like, in her tweets. Like, there's so much knowledge packed into all of them. You definitely want some. I know different people have asked, like, me to do like international politics and foreign affairs commentary. That's not my wheelhouse. I'd have to tap in and bring in Wendy to answer some of the questions you guys want to have conversations on. Well, so thank you so much for calling. Go ahead, Brandon.
Yeah, Wendy is incredibly intelligent, and I can recognize that because I think she's also a PhD candidate.
Calm down, dude. She's married.
I was gonna say I think she's also a PhD candidate in what you call it. I'm
history.
In history, yeah, and I have my own PhDs and stuff. I'm trying. No, but I do want to bring up the point about Twitter because she reminded me of Twitter and all these Democrats who are sort of bending over backwards to kiss Trump's rear. Like 2 days ago, he was like, I don't know, end of the world. The opposite, I'm also not okay with. And Sean King has been getting on my goddamn nerves for the past 2 days with these end of the world apocalyptic, oh God, the children, please think about the children tweets. It's like, listen, dude, why are you so scared for? It's like, don't be scared, homie. Don't be scared. And I usually love Sean King, but he's out of his mind right now. Like, I don't want to, like, listen, the fear-mongering over Trump. If you didn't think you could win, perhaps you shouldn't have fear-mongered so hard. And so, like, and people are acting as though these children are afraid because they were watching Trump be Trump's rallies and all that. But no, these children are afraid because they were watching the Democrats and they listened to their dumbass parents talk about Trump being the end of the world. Now they're afraid because Clinton couldn't close the deal. And so you're presenting this stuff as though these children are afraid because of Trump, when a lot of these children are afraid of because of Clinton and Clinton's message. Because instead of Clinton going high, she went low. And she fear-mongered. And the left in this race were entirely fear-mongers. So when Sean King makes all these statements about these children are so afraid and they cry and they look at the picture of the 7-year-old, all I think to myself is that, but they're crying because of you guys. Like, they're crying because of your message, not his. It may have been your message about his message, but you didn't have to make it seem like the end of the world, because you know what? My 7-year-old niece came to me and she was like, if Trump wins, the world's going to explode. And I was like, where did you hear this from? And she was just like, I don't know, what you call MSNBC or something. And I was just like, yeah, it's like the Democrats were fear mongering. It is like don't get it twisted, dudes. If you're like if the kids of liberal if these lily white liberal kids are afraid, it's because their lily white liberal parents were making them afraid of Trump, because they're also afraid. I'm not scared. Maybe it makes me crazy, but at the end of the day, it's like I don't think the world's going to end. I just don't. I think we're gonna fight, and if you're too cowardly to fight, and that's the thing. Only cowards hide behind children. Like if you have a problem with Trump, have a problem with Trump. If you want to fight Trump, but don't tell me we need to fight Trump because these children are crying. That makes you seem real childish, dude. It's like, Sean King, step your game up, dude. Like, I like your writing, but this Twitter thing that you got going on, where every tweet is 5 kids crying. It's like, that makes you seem like a
it's so funny. It's so funny that you actually say that, because like
punk. We don't like that here.
Yeah, it's so funny that you say that, because like my daughter and her friends, like, because I asked them, because people are like, oh my God, this is happening. So I'm like, where do we live at? Like, I know where I live at. I know what our demographics are, you know what I'm saying? And I know my kids go to school with folks whose parents voted for Donald Trump. I know they go to school with people whose parents vote for Hillary Clinton. Guess what? They all problematic ass little fucks. Like, my daughter, I don't know if I shared the story before. My daughter, she's in robotics club, and she got told, she's on the Bell team, and she was supervising, and she was telling this one girl, and that's the problem. She's in 10th grade, and she's supervising older kids too, right? So they got attitudes about that as well. So anyway, my daughter's supervising. She's like, yeah, do this, and then you need to go stay in your part, and blah 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 blah, right? She that's how Naila does. So the little boy comes over because he didn't like the way she was talking to his girlfriend, and he goes, well, why don't you just stain it for her, since it's the same color as your skin anyway?
Yeah, I mean,
his mama got them big ass H for America stickers on her Lexus, by the way. Like, seriously. That's what she said. Well, I'm sorry to cut you off, but that's what my daughter said. My daughter says, I get more stuff from the kids whose parents are Hillary supporters than I do from the kids who are Trump supporters.
So Courtney makes a valid point, and well, I wasn't trying to make the point that Hillary Clinton, the people are scared because of Hillary. My point is that the rhetoric coming out of the Democratic Party was fear-mongering, and not that they couldn't close the deal. People are afraid, and they didn't consider that when they were doing, because they didn't consider an outcome in which they could not close the deal. And so while the Democratic establishment is ready to play ball because they're, it is what it is, because there were never any stakes for them. They've left a large portion of America afraid, maybe for good reason, maybe for no reason. But when you start talking about the nuclear holocaust, I'm going to trend towards you made people afraid for no reason. But when it comes down to, the Dems are myopic. But when it comes down to the Supreme Court, I don't like that. I've never liked that argument. I think it's a valid one, but I think it normalizes some stuff that goes on in our government that should not be normalized, and that is that our Congress is inactive when it comes to certain issues. And when you're telling me that the only way we can keep women's rights from moving forward, is by we have to vote for a problematic ass neoliberal so we can have really, really, really shallow social things get through that are just going to be eroded at the basic level anyway. No, my friend. No. That tells me that we need a brand new Congress. That tells me not to adopt someone else's rhetoric, but that tells me that our Congress cannot even pass one of the most basic laws. And if they need to, much less an amendment to the Constitution, and God knows we need a few amendments to the Constitution. They can't pass gun legislation. They can't fix the Voting Rights Act. They can't do any of this thing. So before people tell me that we need to elect Hillary Clinton So we have only someone from the center right in Supreme Court. I need them to explain to me why we can't have a real Congress. I need to explain to me why the Democrats have trapped us into this box where all we can have is one branch of government to do one, but not really, and only sometimes. So we basically have one branch of government that is completely inactive on anything but corporate interests. Then we have another branch of government that is an activist branch, because I don't agree with activist judges, period. I am very judicially conservative. I don't like this Supreme Court legislative shit.
Flag on the play. Warning. Danger, Will Robinson. Danger.
What?
Go ahead. You don't like activist judges. Oh gosh.
Now in the Supreme Court, I don't like that. We don't elect Supreme Court judges. We don't. I like a Congress that represents the people's will. That's what I like. I think that we should be able to. The VRA was enacted by Congress in 1964, wasn't it? 64, 65. They should be able to repass it. They should be able to do something. I'm sorry. I think the Supreme Court is important, but I think we need checks and balances, and right now we don't have that. We have a very, very, very inactive. It's like what I like doesn't happen, but I refuse to normalize it.
Mm-hmm.
I think a lot of people have normalized something that should be normalized, and like if you have a problem with me not normalizing something you've normalized, that's your problem, bro, or sis. Sorry, that's your problem. Like I refuse to normalize something. I refuse to normalize drone warfare. I refuse to normalize rampant poverty in America. I refuse to normalize those things. I just don't. So whenever it's brought up.
Oh, so I'm going to switch. I'm going to do a hard. So it was said to me earlier today, because going back to the Hill Bros, because I got a bunch of Hill Bros in my mentions, and then because I'll have some balanced statements. Sometimes you can't really tell. Sometimes y'all gotta let me actually, and I guess Twitter hates me and other people, because when I try to do threads, they're not really threads. Even though I do them as threads, they show up, I guess, as random tweets to you guys sometimes. But y'all need to calm down with jumping. If you're retweeting me and people who follow you are jumping in my mentions, you need to calm your people down, because I'm not playing nice to people right now, right? So people jumping in well, maybe you should have told your leaders, maybe you should have been brainwashed. Honey pie, you need to slow the hell down. I don't have no supreme leader. I don't answer to nobody. Bernie Sanders was my daddy. Hillary Clinton ain't my mammy. Y'all need to calm down with all that, okay? Anytime I post something, everybody's well, Bernie Sanders sold out. Okay, calm down, okay? Because I've been criticizing Bernie Sanders before it was cool to do it. Let's be real. I done had people in the inboxes, on my pages, everything. Are you speaking? Will Bernie Sanders march for your rights? The hell is you talking about? I had to school some of you all on how to talk about Bernie Sanders and black issues, okay? So I say all this stuff to say we need to calm down, even though I am leading event session, right? So it's kind of like a double-edged sword. But what's so wild today, because these people are so pathological, going back to the Hill Bros, they really don't get it. Peter Dowd was well, I'm with the majority of Americans that voted for Hillary. No, dude, you're with the majority of the 50% that voted in the election. And you're not even with the majority. Approximately 25% of eligible voters voted for Hillary Clinton. Approximately 25% of eligible voters voted for Donald Trump. That means that they each only got a quarter of all eligible voters in the country. That is freaking abysmal. That is not a referendum. If for either one of them. If anything, that is a referendum against the current state of democracy or lack thereof in the United States of America. We're supposed to be the greatest democracy, the greatest government on earth, and we can't even get people to vote. For this is abysmal. With the Brexit vote, what was it, 62% or something like that? It was so low, and they were the British were freaking out, right? Americans are whatever. People don't vote.
The American democratic system is designed to suppress the vote, both from both structurally and just intellectually. I mean, anytime you have a system where the president can win without the popular vote, that's going to make people not want to vote 100%. So when people tell me the vote is being suppressed all over the place, man. It's held on Tuesday. It's held on Tuesday, in a country where people aren't guaranteed paid leave, a national holiday. It's like we have the formerly incarcerated can't vote in certain states until they're off parole or ever. Like, you know, voter ID laws, all these things, man. Like people it is what it is. Of course, 50% of Americans don't vote. You know what? One of my millennial friends told me, because I'm 25, so I'm a millennial. But I was at the gym. I went to go vote because, you know, I took my grandmother to vote. And I went to the gym.
What?
Yeah, I'm a millennial. You know, that's sorry. That's how you know Hillary wasn't even trying to get the millennial vote. Because come on, I never saw hashtag millennials, not even one time. That writes itself. Millennials. Lena Dunham is a writer. She can't write that shit. Like
Lena Dunham, I find it hard to believe.
We're not going down. We're not going.
Yes, we are.
Oh yeah. But let me make my point. I talked to one of my friends, my 21-year-old at the gym, and he told me about why he didn't vote this time. He was like, you know what, election to be this. He's like, I don't want my first election to be Trump versus Clinton, because it feels just like, And I didn't even know how to respond to that. Like I had never even heard that one. Like he valued his first vote too much to vote for in something that was so just dishonest.
As someone who first voted in Gore v. Bush, I mean, looking back, it was so much optimism and stuff like that, but at the same time, I understand why someone would be, you know, because you do. If you are trained, you are raised to think that the vote is something that's just so sacred and meaningful, right? And if that's what you believe, that it's like some really sacred and duty and oath and stuff, you're not going to just toss it away lightly. And really, that's what it felt like for a lot of people voting. I mean, even though the Green Party did not get anywhere near 5%, and we can talk about why that happened. I think Adair's trying to pull together a conversation with. You're awful, but you know, I don't feel like that was a waste. I mean, also I live in a red state, so I don't feel like, you know, I voted my conscience. Quite honestly, I mean, I didn't think I would have, if I had the option though. I actually would have voted for Gloria LaRiva and Eugene Puryear, and not just because Eugene's my friend, but I liked where they were coming from, and I'm absolutely in awe of Gloria LaRiva. But I think but they weren't an option on my ballot. And it to me, it was, if I wasn't going to vote, then I was going to just blank out. But I decided that, and I wasn't going to vote in president. Of course, I was going to vote for everything else. And I just want to shift a little bit to something that happened here at a state level, because we need to be more aware and alert of what's going on, right? In terms of the local and down ballots and things like that, right? Because we and I'm using this euphemistic general we, because a lot of us obviously are paying very close attention to what's going on, but we get so caught up as people. We get herded into these, you know, they prey on fear, they prey on our anxiety, and that either causes some people to shut down, which is why I'm not surprised people didn't vote, right? It's all the fear-mongering. The world's gonna be awful anyway. She's a disaster, he's a disaster, everybody's gonna bomb brown people, nobody's gonna really do anything about police killing black people. You know, she's actually open to making some changes with Social Security. He's gonna fuck Social Security up completely. I mean, it's all gonna crash and crumble anyway. So like, if you don't handle this very well, you are going to shut down and check out of the process, because they're not offering you anything to be involved, right? If you are voting, then you're so scared and petrified that you're so like hyper focused on what they're talking about that you're not paying attention to anything else. And what happened here, I'm just gonna get to this real quick, in Georgia, is we had issue 1 was the big thing with their billboards, this big campaign right against it, and yay, issue 1 got defeated. And issue 1 was I always want to say occupation of school district, but it was basically a school takeover scheme. But what did get through that was even worse was this judicial restructuring that basically removed the independent body that oversaw judicial ethics here in Georgia. Like, it passed. I was surprised at how far of a margin it passed, but the way the ballot was worded, I mean, you know, it was ambiguous. So people probably thought they were voting for something good. And there was not the same, you know, so-called liberals and progressives down here was so organized around this one school choice issue, which the school districts, like even the rural Republican areas, they had issue resolutions saying they weren't supporting it to their parents, right? But people went over the top, and no one really organized around this judicial issue. But now we have, you know, our Republican governor now has the right to personally oversee judicial ethics issues where it otherwise was an outside independent group that did so. So it's highly problematic for a lot of different reasons. I don't know if you guys saw the Adult Swim. If any of you guys watch what's that cartoon with the grandpa and his grandson? I can't think of it. Huh?
Boondocks? Not the Boondocks.
No, Adult Swim. No. Anyway, there's a case here in Georgia that's absolutely egregious. It was so egregious. Rick and Morty, right? I don't know if you watch Rick and Morty, but there's a case in Georgia from June, from Athens, a little north of Atlanta. It's so egregious that Rick and Morty did a skit, and when you watch it, it's like, it's so outrageous. You're like, this didn't really happen, but they literally just took the transcript, and I showed it to my dad, and my dad was like, God, what are you showing me? Where's the clean version? And we were laughing. We were like, that is the clean version. But this literally happened in the courtroom, and that person did get, but there are so many issues with the judges here. It's just a mess. So we get distracted, right? And that's what I feel happened in this election. We got so distracted. Hillary Clinton, we got to save her. We got to do this. We got to win it for her. And I'm just like, are you listening to yourselves? We have Congress. We have Senate. Like, they completely forgot about winning the Senate until the last several days.
But see, that's the thing,
though. Failed. Except for the few bright spots we had in there, but like, they failed.
That's just the thing though. Like, people, like, then this goes down to like the blank out vote, and I think people doing a disservice when they talk about voting. And the first message you need to get out there now that this is over is that democracy is not a cyclical thing. Democracy is not simply the vote. Democracy is all of the conversations we have about the nature of our reality. I'm not reality, but the economic and material reality that we exist in. Like, this is democracy we're doing right now. We're engaging with chat. This is part of democracy. The vote is the last step. We engage in this stuff with each other and with other communities so that we can solidify what these options are. The fact that Bernie Sanders was kind of this like ad hoc last minute choice just demonstrates people were not thinking, and we can't do that again. We can't do this thing where we don't have a candidate to run against Hillary Clinton until the last minute, because we've seen that the Democratic Party is planning months and years ahead of us. And ultimately, that's because they understand that democracy is something that you don't turn off. That's their job. So it needs to be our job too, or at least our hobby. And understand when we have this conversation, what we're talking about. We're talking about what we want society to look like. We're not just shooting the shit. We're talking about, okay, well, we have a problem with the police. What's the solution? The solution isn't wait 2 years to vote for someone different. The solution is what we're going to do right now. And so people talking about 2018, no, we're talking like, this is democracy right here. November 11th, 2016. This is part of democracy, and we need to make that very clear when we talk to people. And I don't know if Eddie Glaude Jr. did that when he was talking about blanking out the vote, but if he didn't, he was doing you a disservice. And I don't mind saying that because his PhD ain't worth more than mine is, you know. And so at the end of the day, the message needs to be democracy is more than simply voting. Democracy is more than simply getting out there and putting your name on a ballot and then congratulating yourself and then jerking off like you fucking solved the world's problem. You did your civic. That's not your civic duty. It's like, no. It's 12:19. Ben is asleep. He can't hear this, and he's not gonna watch it. So I'm gonna say
it was so funny last night when he was like, "Wow, Michael Brooks is probably the only person who curses as much as me or more than me on the Benjamin Dixon Show." And I'm like, dude, you were not listening to us the other night.
You do not watch Brandon, obviously. But no, and that's frustrating because you have all these smart people out there who are still thinking within this very small box. That's like, oh, okay, well, they can't break out the framework, and it's because they're part of the establishment, whether they're against it or it's like really militant atheists who, whether you're really militant atheist or really militant Christian, your life is still defined by God. Either the presence or the absence of it, but it's still defined by God. And so it becomes like, how do we break people out of this framework where voting for president or even voting for Congress is the most important thing that you do? Like, and it's hard because that is a way that they enslave our minds, because they make it seem like it's an event, and so people are so tired now. Everyone is so tired because there was so much buildup, and everyone is now in that sort of, post-orgasmic haze of shame and whatever, that they feel like they're gonna disengage for at least 2 months, and by the time they wake up again, it's already over. And I'm sorry.
Understand. Go ahead, finish. I'll let you finish.
Let me finish. And that's why when people were talking about holding Hillary Clinton's feet to the fire, whether we were talking about any of these pundits, Tom Hartman, whatever, I was like, no, the fuck you're not. You're just simply not. And here's why you're not. Because from now until I would say 2019, December, you're not going to even be thinking about democracy next election. You're going to be dealing with the day-to-day stories. And so, like, unless you're really, like, we need to start talking about who is running in 2020 right now. Who are we putting up in these things?
And not Bernie Sanders. I'm so sorry. Y'all need. I don't care what he says or doesn't say.
Not Elizabeth Warren either. I'm not feeling Warren right now. It's like, could get back to me in 6 months. I'm not feeling Warren right now because she sold out real hard. She embarrassed herself. She needs to sit down for a second and reevaluate her life choices. Because it's different when you
find your ass.
It's different when you support the winner.
I'm trying, Ike.
It's different when you support the winner and you sell out, but you support the loser. You got behind. You put all your dignity on a loser, and so you need to sit down. I don't care how much you yell Wells Fargo's president. Sit down, shut up for 6 months, and you recenter yourself.
I'm trying, Ike. I'm trying.
I never believed anyone can hold them accountable because no one's gonna be paying attention to like this. They're gonna be complaining about Trump. They're gonna be complaining about this stuff. But at the end of the day, like, unless you have someone ready to run in 2020 right now, which you need to, because you need to get that infrastructure built up now. We need to excise the cancer of the DNC. The DNC needs to be. We need to take them out to the woodshed. Like, we need to take and get rid of them, and because they will not give up the reins of power easily. If you think just because they lost, they're gonna run a progressive candidate, you are out of your mind.
Well, what do you think about challenging? What do you think about for those who went dim exit though, right? Like for those who went dim exit, what do you think about those people in terms of the Green Party? Like how do we do? Because here's the other thing, right? So we talk about the Green Party, and there are a lot of people who went and joined the Green Party, and the Green Party, the fight for viability. But are there structural issues? Are there deeply embedded entrenched thinking, even though they do have a progressive platform? But as we already know, even with progressives, particularly old white progressives, sometimes, not always, I'm clarifying that. I'm not going to make an overgeneralization. Because old black progressives and liberals and stuff are problematic too. Do people need to occupy the Green Party? Right? I mean, we're talking about building a third party movement and stuff. Do we need to be? I really actually it's not even a question. I mean, I think that whatever you're saying, your allegiance is going to be going forward in terms of, and I think we need to be flexible enough where we can collaborate. Like, I know you can trust me, and you know you can trust me. So that's not what I meant to say, but we need to be able to collaborate and work together. So even if you do stay green and I stay independent and unaffiliated from any party, I think that we need to be able to work together to move. Not you. I mean, like the people who are talking to us, who are listening, engaging with us. Not you, but like. You know what I'm saying? Like, I think that we still need to be able to have our coalition. We need to have a coalition. Not everybody doesn't need to do the same thing, and we don't need to fall apart because everyone's not doing the same thing, right? Of course. So that's what we need to be doing.
We need to take a lesson from the Tea Party, because a lot of people threw them out and like, oh, they had nothing to learn from them. The Tea Party got what they wanted. Like the Tea Party took over the Republican Party. And you can call it AstroTurf, you can call it whatever, but they took over, and they did it because they were angry. They didn't know why they were angry, and they let people come in and tell them why they were angry. But that doesn't mean that their mobilization was any less impressive. They took over that party. They're still the head of that party. We still can't get things done because of the Tea Party. And so the progressives, they need to humble themselves and say, you know what, maybe we're not the smartest people in the room because we keep losing. Like, maybe we aren't the smartest. Maybe just because we have all these degrees and we do X, Y, and Z, and we get together and I read Heidegger and I know all about continental philosophy and I can cite all these books and I read Daniel Foster Wallace and I do all this. Maybe that's crippling.
Yeah, I don't do that stuff.
maybe that's crippling the left. Maybe we're what you call a feat. Maybe a lot of us are feet because we're overeducated and we just can't seem to break out of this entitlement that we feel comes from that. And I think, and that's a problem because we disregard things that we don't understand because they don't fit into our little boxes of theory. And at the end of the day, that's how they beat us.
No, absolutely. Absolutely. And it's just so funny because these Hill bros are so upset. They're so angry because we didn't vote. Like, well, did you vote? I'm like, well, did you organize? Did you mobilize? Was you underground? Was you getting it in PA? Was you getting it in Michigan? What was you doing in Wisconsin, huh? Where was you at in Ohio? Was you talking to your people? Because Black people who look like me, black women, we didn't have a problem getting to the polls.
Oh my God.
Now I may not have voted, like we weren't the problem. And it was so funny because someone I respect very much tried to make the point that it wasn't just white women that were the problem, that black men were the problem too, because they voted for Trump too. And they were like, well, if black men voted for Hillary at less proportions than black women, then that means, I said, this is a very flawed, and actually someone showed me numbers and said like 13% or so of black men who were eligible to vote, who did voted for Trump. And I was just like, that's in the 8% overall black support for Trump. And I think they said it was 13% black men had voted for Trump. That gets really tricky, right? But that doesn't mean that that's what put him over, because when you look at the proportion that we make up of voting blocks, right? Like, that's not what put him over by any stretch of the imagination. Your 60%, you can't say, well, you're 13% contributed too. Nah, dude, like it don't work that way. But it's just so problematic though, because these people feel like they're entitled to the issue is that we didn't vote a certain way or we didn't do the work. Well, you all were organized and volunteering before. Why aren't you doing it now? Why aren't you doing it? Like,
yeah, like what? Like, I'm sorry.
Slavery ended in 1865.
But I think Nick made a good point that I didn't fully address, and I want to address it here because it's a very short point too. Mm-hmm. This notion of becoming too focused on how we identify ourselves and too focused on language.
I hate labels.
Okay, most people hate labels fit well into. My point is this: it's like, I think if we learn nothing from this election, it's that you can't trust labels, because so many problematic ass people define themselves as progressive or liberal or feminist or anti-racist, and their definitions of that were not what our definitions were. And like a big part of the left's problem during this election cycle was jockeying over who had control over what it meant to be a liberal, who had control over what it meant to be progressive. If you don't do X, you're not a liberal. If you don't do Y, if you don't stand with her, you're not a progressive. And that's the problem with the Democratic Party.
Oh, stop the presses. I'm so sorry. They're saying they are grooming Chelsea to run for Congress. I don't know what you've been told, but the Clinton brand has got to go.
Oh, yeah,
so I don't know who we get to primary her ass and crush her, but we doing this in New York. They're claiming allegedly that Chelsea could run for the seat in New York's 17th congressional district. We putting a pin in this. Like, it's not happening no more.
No more Clintons, dude.
No more problematic as Clintons. None.
They're so bad, and they're not even good at what they do. Like, and that's the sad part. Like Bill Clinton had some swagger, also a sexual predator, but he had some swagger. Apparently being a sexual predator doesn't disqualify you from holding office. So I gotta let that go. So it is what it is. But yeah, go back to my original point. No. From now on, here's the answer to your question. From now on, when someone tells you what their ideology is, ask them to tell you what that means for their prescription on the world. If they're telling you they're progressive, ask them what they feel about Social Security. Like, they're telling you a feminist, ask them how they feel about $15 minimum wage. Because there are a lot of feminists out there who don't understand that the $15 minimum wage is a feminist issue. There are a lot of feminists out there who don't understand that the welfare reform is problematic for women. There are a lot of feminists out there who don't understand that it's not their left white ones who don't understand it's not their job to define what a Muslim woman wears or not. That it's not their job to define the problems of women of color. There are a lot of rich black people who don't understand that their definition of racism is not the definition of is not mine, and that they don't have the right to define it for us. So we need part of reforming the left is making people account for their ideas and not their ideology. And this goes back to intersectionality. And the need for people to account for all parts of their identity, not just being a woman, but what about that rich part? What about that white part? What about that elite part?
So this is also interesting. So this is why I'm so happy that like the so woke left that rushed to, we all got to support her and then push her later is kind of coming to their damn senses and digging in post election. One second.
I was referring to the Clintons' welfare reform.
No. Go ahead. You're responding to something. I'm just saying, because stuff is coming up on Twitter while we're talking too, and it's like insane. There is an article, even though he's not my favorite person, Zach Exley and Becky Bonds from Bernie's campaign, and they were very instrumental, like on the data side. tech heavy side of the campaign and stuff. There's a piece they just did about how analyzing some of the Clinton data. Remember, she kept saying like, "Why aren't I 50 points ahead?" Was this? I guess their targeting data was wrong.
What?
So I guess they were saying that their data was wrong, and they may have actually turned out Trump supporters.
Yo, these people are bad at their jobs. They're bad at their jobs.
How inept, and you people want to be president? You want to run the whole damn country? Like,
that's what happens when you
trained monkeys can do this, and
that's
with the looks of Donald Trump, they do.
That's what happens when you refuse to hold someone accountable in your own party. They think that they're getting ahead because they're intelligent and that they have good people around them, when they're getting ahead because they're cheating. And a lot of people are bad at what they do, and they get by having a little bit of swagger and being able to put numbers in your face and wave them. And then when it comes down to it, you lose. You're like, what happened? Like, that degree I had in statistics, it was a theoretical degree in statistics. I know I said it was a degree in theoretical statistics, but I got that mixed up. It's a theoretical degree in statistics. So I wasn't really doing the math properly. So it's like,
anyway, we're gonna go for about another 15 minutes, and then we're gonna wrap it up because it's a holiday for me tomorrow, so I don't have to go to bed, but I'm going to go to bed. But there's just so much going on, and I mean, so we've been going on and on about all these different issues, but these are things that we keep saying. Like, everyone's like, okay, so how do we form? Like, what do we do? Do we form a new group? There's tons of groups forming. You know, if you guys listened to the show last night, well, 2 nights ago, I guess, when I was on, Marcus Farrow from Impact, and everybody's like, what's that? It's a new thing, something that I'm actually involved in. And I was involved in BNC, and I would say, you know, get on the calls for the different groups if you have time and see where you fit, right? But progressives do need to learn more about how to play nice and work together. I do know that people are always scrambling for resources, and particularly with what's the administration we're about to have, I mean, resources we're going to see a scarcity issue, but it's going to be more important than ever where we can, if we can, to support our own, because the work needs to be done. But we also really need to be involved in our state and local level, what's going on. Like, a lot of us have 2017. Just announced here that Senator Fort, who was a Georgia Bernie, he was late to the game, but he was still a Georgia Bernie endorser. He just announced that he's going to run for mayor, and it was rumored that he was going to run for mayor. And our current mayor, some of you may remember, he was a Hillary surrogate who wrote his awful op-ed about Bernie, and basically called him racist and stuff. All his talking points are written by Correct the Record, if you guys remember him. So he has made it his mission. He said he was going to make it his mission to make sure that Vincent Fort never held office in the city of Atlanta, not mayor, not anything. So, I mean, I'm really inclined to actually get involved with his campaign, just for the simple fact that I'd love to see Kasim Reed eat crow, because I can't stand our mayor. But really, like, to our caller earlier who said he's going to get involved with the school board, that's great. Do that, because there's so much that needs to happen. We do need people active. Even if you don't have kids, but you're in the community, a lot of places, school boards have a position for someone from the community, because it's a part of your community. It's a community institution. It's a community resource.
And they are not. I'm sorry, just interrupt, because I studied school boards for my dissertation. Yeah. It's like, and school boards are
you
not
study
like
everything, don't you?
No. School boards is what my dissertation was. Is what my master's thesis was on, and all, and dissertation research was theoretically on. But of course, in New York City, that's not important right now. School boards are not like, and your local government is not like the national government. They want you to be there, especially if you're in a small town. They want you to go. School boards want you to go to their meetings. They send out little pamphlets. They need you to be there, because it insulates them from higher bodies of government. So, like, they want you there, and they want to hear what you have to say. You can go to your school board meeting. You can stand up and you can agree to speak. You can go. You show up 15 minutes early. Put your name on the list. You can talk about the school board. You can talk about what you feel like the school should do. In the community, all stuff. Like, just get involved at your local level, and that's what comes down. Again, that's what you learn from the Tea Party. The Tea Party got involved at every level. Like, they infiltrated every level of government. They didn't just focus on the presidency as some sort of big dick waving measure. They understood the value of local politics. Because at the end of the day, it's not the president who is changing those bus routes in your neighborhood. It's your Republican ass neighbor who's 95, who's going down to the planning commission meetings and complaining, and he's the one who shows up. If you don't show up, people steal your vote. There is no, and that's what I'm talking about. I'm sorry, this goes back to my democracy. There is no way to opt out of democracy. You participate in democracy every day of your life, whether you know it or not. There's no way to opt out. You don't not vote. When you vote, not voting is not the same thing as saying I don't care who wins. It's not the same thing as saying no one is. I think I don't care who wins. When you don't vote, you make the voices of everyone else who's voting stronger. That's not how our system works. You gotta get out there and engage. When you don't speak up, whether it be with your vote or with your mouth, you make everyone who is speaking up louder. So say some shit. I say shit. I'm wrong all the time. Courtney spent this entire time chatting about how wrong I am. I'm unconvinced. Be forceful in your conviction. Shout out to Courtney. That's my girl, I think.
Courtney is my dog. That's my buddy from law school. Actually, we weren't actually in law school. She was actually in school ahead of me. Courtney's actually a little bit of a finance guru. She actually has written some white papers that kind of predicted a couple of, disasters that nobody wanted to pay attention to her about. But, she was right. Kind of like us with Bernie Sanders. We were right. I think everything you're saying is absolutely correct. And she and I have this conversation. Courtney and I have this conversation. Several of us have this conversation all the time. Wendy and I have this conversation. We all have these conversations about how people really need to be paying attention to what's going on, because, that also building up, local level candidates and stuff like that, that also starts giving us a pool to pull from. We got to look at who's going to run for Congress, who's going to run for Senate. We got to build up those bases for ourselves, because like we were talking about, like who's going to run in 2020, we got to start grooming people and picking those people right now. We need to mobilize. And I saw that Bernie got asked about 2020 and he's open to it or something to that effect. He hasn't ruled it out. Dude, like, look, you're going to be damn near 80 in 2020. Yeah. Okay. Absolutely. I love Bernie Sanders, but the way he rolled over at 75, I don't want to see what you're going to do at 79. Like, if you ain't got the fight, then you just need to go sit down somewhere place.
Then help someone else.
But that's what I'm saying. He needs to leverage his position to help someone else, right? Exactly. Put someone else. I don't want to see Bernie Sanders back in 2020.
Keith Ellison, 2020.
Keith Ellison, Tulsi Gabbard ticket. Keith Ellison need to turn the ticket. I don't think that would fly.
1 second, just real quick. Eric W said he's angry. You should be angry. The DNC robbed you. They robbed you. They sold you out. They didn't give a shit about you. You should be angry. You should stay angry. You should go down to your local school board and
really upset me. You know what really upset me? Like, I think we should continue Ben's shit list from yesterday. Keith Olbermann. Keith Olbermann really upset me.
I just want to finish my thing because Ben, that caller Christopher Zach, I think made a great point, and that the left, and I hate to use this kind of, and I'm not going to use this kind of language, but you know what the language I'm alluding to. I hate to make this point, but the left is full of little bees with little peas sometimes. Mm-hmm. Like when it comes down, a lot of what has been taught in our liberal institutions, like schools, to what I would consider to be the liberal youth, is that fighting is never the answer. That there's never a reason to fight, and that to back down. And a lot of the conservatives, they're not taught that in school. And it's what Ben says. You got to fight fire with fire sometimes. You got to meet ignorance with ignorance. You got to meet bullheadedness with bullhead. You can't go into a political argument not sure of your position and wishy-washy. You go in there angry. You go in there ready to fight, and you go in there ready to win. This is not a discussion. This is an argument. And and a lot of these conservatives, they're cowards. They are sheep in wolves' clothing. It's like what Toni Morrison said, not strong, only aggressive.
Yep, absolutely. I mean, absolutely. I think that's what we got to do. So we can sit here, we can riff, we can talk shit. I mean, we got to vent, right? Because we got to get through this the best way we can. And when we have the time to, we'll come on late. We both have our shows. Project Sanity was on earlier this evening at 8 p.m. You guys switched, right? You're 8 p.m. to 9 now, not 7 to 9.
8 p.m. to 9, because 2 hours is a long ass time.
2 hours is a long ass time, and then you got an hour of Ben, and then I had to come on to an hour. That would have been a long ass night, and folks ain't watching all that shit.
You got a Brandon sandwich tonight, because you got Ben between two me's. I don't know how tall Ben is, but if he's over 5'9", it's gonna look real awkward.
Anyway, but no, seriously though, like we really do appreciate you guys is engaging, and I mean, there's some really sharp people out there, and you know, you guys send us information and you hit us up and you really provide great commentary, and we need to keep having these conversations. So we continue to try to build out our shows to upgrade the quality. We are doing our part to bring you hard hitting, you know, cutting edge, up to date. We're gonna fight, and you know, it hasn't been as news heavy. But go ahead.
No, I'm gonna. We're gonna fight, and we're not gonna fight like the other progressives who before the election rolled over for Clinton are gonna fight now and try to make you forget.
We're gonna fight until it gets too hard.
We're gonna fight until I'm ready to fight
until it gets too hard. It's easier to just play nice. I'm not ready to fight until it gets too hard.
They're gonna fight now because they didn't fight before, and now they're embarrassed because they lost. They should be embarrassed. So what you do is, you know, you share our videos, you do what you gotta do. You know, like get us good, you elevate us to the point that we can compete with them, because then we will take them down.
Absolutely.
100%. Absolutely. We are ready to go toe to toe with every progressive outlet out there, every faux progressive, every fake progressive, everyone who out there. Everyone who was out there shilling for Clinton because they were going to hold her feet to the fire, that was nonsense. And I'll tell them that to their face. They weren't going to do anything but whine, like kick dogs. And now they.
I mean, but that's something to be said, though, as we close out. That's something to be said. You know, this undying loyalty that people just give to parties or candidates or whatever, and what do you get in return? Like, how is that any different than being, you know, a puppy, right? Like, I mean, and dogs probably get treated better than some people do. Like, so we really have to stop. We have to stop putting it on the line for other people to get someplace and to achieve something. And we have to put it on the line for ourselves, our communities. You know, you got to do it for the hood. You got to do it for the block. You got to do it for the holla.
We fight for you guys. We fight.
Yeah, we fight for you guys.
We are the aggressive left. We're not the left.
I don't know about the aggressive left, but
I'm aggressive.
You are aggressive.
I'll look you in your face. I'm crazy. I don't got them Carly Fiorina eyes. I got the Mike Pence eyes. The ones where you know I ain't got no soul. I'm ready to go down.
He said, you know, I ain't got no soul. Yo, y'all better hope that Donald Trump actually wants to be president. Because if Mike Pence becomes president, we're gonna have Christian Sharia law. Like, for real, it's gonna be kind of crazy.
I'm just trying to say that, you know, we're here to fight for you. We're here to fight, and we're not going to sell out. We're not going to sell out because we think it's the right thing to do. We're not going to sell out because they were getting paid. But if they write a big enough check, you're going to have to deal with that, man. Because
nah, we just wanted to riff tonight and just talk, because it's just still so much going on. It's so raw. I'm glad I was able to. I'm still working out the Skype thing because, like I said, shout out to David Grossman, who produces our shows. David has to get up early, so they didn't want to keep him up. So, you know, thank you for bearing with us while I figured it all out, because that's not what I normally do. But and thank you to Brandon for joining me on this late night escapade. So we here, you know, we're here. I'm here on Wednesday nights, 8 p.m. Eastern time. I stream here. Also go check out my YouTube channel, The Way of Anoa. It's, you know, youtube.com/The Way of Anoa. You know, check if you feel so inclined, you know, you can donate $1 or $2 to my Patreon, patreon.com/The Way of Anoa. And on Wednesday, I'll actually be talking with David Daly, author of Rat Fuck, The True Story Behind the Secret Plan to Steal America's Democracy. It's basically about redistricting and how Republicans and other operatives rigged the democracy after President Obama's 2008 election. So that should be a really good conversation. You know, David's had a couple of good articles and stuff this election cycle, so I'm looking forward to talking to him that'll be Wednesday, 8:15. So tune back in. Go ahead, Brandon.
I just want to address something that one of Eric W said that one host was blaming Bernie yesterday and hanging up on calls, not here but on a different channel. I want to say, like, listen, don't worry too much about those people. Are embarrassed. They're embarrassed and they're ashamed.
It's not Bernie's fault.
It's not Bernie's fault. It's not
Bernie for things, and that's a Courtney and I were having this conversation, and since she's been in the room, I'll have to. I guess she gonna be like,
embarrassed and they're entitled.
They are embarrassed and entitled. And Courtney and I were talking about this earlier, and we were talking about, you know, you can be constructive, right? You can be critical, but it needs to be constructive, right? And really actually doing something. These people are criticizing because they're just blaming. They're just making up excuses and are not taking responsibility. And excuses are tools of the weak and incompetent, used with monuments of nothingness. And those who excel in them seldomly excel in anything but excuses.
That was deep, but I'm not gonna go that deep. They're childish. Here's the thing: they were like, you know how you know they were childish because during the primary and after the primary, they were constantly pretending like they were adults, and only children pretend to be adults, man. Only children pretend to be adults. It's just like only children tout adultness and maturity as values, as as things that are good to have. Real adults don't tell you how they're making adult decisions. Real adults make adult decisions. And a lot of these people, no offense, they were cowards. They were too afraid to stand up to Clinton because they were more afraid of Trump. And fear rules their life, but fear doesn't rule my life. I'm not scared, homie. So don't be scared with me. Honestly, at the end of the day, they were childish, they were entitled, they were petulant, and then they lost. And there's nothing worse than when a privileged person loses, because then they throw tantrums, and that's what they're doing. They're throwing a tantrum because they leverage their self-worth and their dignity to crawl up in bed with a neoliberal warmonger who was shaking hands with Negroponte and Kissinger, and they knew they were wrong from the get-go, and they were dealing with that. They haven't learned anything. They were dealing with that cognitive dissonance. And if you still watch those shows, what you need to do is, every video on that show, you remind them for the next 4 years that if it were up to them, they would have Negroponte, talking about Negroponte supporter on as president. You comment on every one of their videos, call in once a week if you want, and remind them that they supported a loser. They leveraged their dignity for nothing, and they still lost.
Yeah, they're floating Tim Kaine for 2020. They're floating. They haven't learned a damn thing, and you know it. I mean,
they learned that. But I'll tell you,
you gonna learn today.
I'll quote Death Proof. There's nothing sadder than a pretty girl with a bruised ego, and that's all they are. No offense to pretty girls or women in general, but that's just the expression. There's nothing worse than a privileged person, someone who thinks they're always right. There's nothing worse than these upper middle class white people with their platforms who convince themselves that they were the real progressives just because they think women are people and they can tolerate Negroes.
We are the left.
I'm whatever I want to be.
Yeah, exactly. I don't fit in your little pre-described neoliberal leftist box. I'm me.
I'll tell you, like I tell Ben, like I think, how does being a progressive define my ideology? It doesn't. I do what I want to do, and I call it socialism, and that's what it is at the end of the day. You can agree with me, or you can not agree with me, but I'm not going to sit here and argue with you over what socialism is.
Yeah, they're floating Tim Kaine, they're floating Howard Dean, and Tim Kaine added nothing. Howard Dean, he's not who he was 10 years ago. So they just need to stop playing around. They need to, and I really do feel like Tim Kaine, Howard Dean hopping on that DFA call tonight that Keith Ellison was leading. Keith Ellison was leading a call tonight at the same day that Bernie Sanders is really pushing. Bernie Sanders has put out a petition for Keith Ellison to be the new head of the DNC. Keith Ellison is a very well respected member of the Progressive Caucus of Congress in general, and he's a pretty level headed. I mean, somebody I admire, and I had some exchanges with. But I found that Howard Dean hopping on this call tonight. I'm like, oh, this is a power move. He's trying to stake his claim. And Howard Dean said it on the call. And I guess someone asked, and they wanted to know what Keith Ellison's plans was. And he said he would announce on Monday exactly what he was doing. So, I like Keith Ellison. I like Keith Ellison as well. And I think, Dean voted against voters. They have not learned a lesson. The hubris is a motherfucker.
No, but see, there is no lesson for them to learn. Because this is
not
all
yet,
nothing.
But they gonna learn today.
No, because they're
gonna learn tomorrow and next week.
If you think that the Democratic establishment can learn a lesson from this, you don't understand what the establishment is. What can they do? Give up power voluntarily? That's not how it works. Power is never ceded voluntarily. It's taken, and we got to take it. And unfortunately,
you are absolutely correct. We have to.
It's like, so if you think that they're gonna give up what they had just because they lost this one time, no, they're gonna run Kane. And Courtney asked what value did Kane bring to the election? Kane lost for this election. Kane lost Hillary Clinton this election. Undoubtedly, because Kane was the biggest slap in the face to everyone who had already been slapped in the face, and that's what it is. I think it is what it is, man. Kane lost the election. Oh, period. Like, because Tulsi Gabbard, Elizabeth Warren, Bernie Sanders.
There was no way, and the problem is like there were no way, because this is about, there was so much hubris, right? There was so much hubris, there was so much pride, there was so much, we're gonna, people are complaining because Trump supposedly has, like Omarosa said, that we're keeping a list of our enemies. Well, it's very clear the Hillary Clinton campaign did the same thing, because Tulsi, we saw from WikiLeaks, Tulsi was threatened that people wouldn't help fundraise for her. She overwhelmingly won her reelection. Didn't need you anyway, because y'all talked all that stuff about we were fundraising, joint fundraising for the states and blah blah blah. The states ain't seen none of that money. Like, that's the investigation. I'm not trying to start no conspiracy stuff, but seriously, where the hell did all the money go, Hillary? Did you really spend all that money on them whack ass Republican for Hillary commercials?
Money, Lebowski. Where's the money?
Like, seriously, we're gonna have to talk shit about. I guess we'll save talking shit about Trump for politics and grits on Sunday.
We were talking shit already about things.
For Trump on politics and grits. So this is going to be our first, I think tentatively we're still doing politics and grits this Sunday. Me, Brandon, and Ben. That's the name of our show. Me, Brandon, Ben. No, it's politics and grits.
An 80s sitcom.
But yeah, it's just gonna be us. It's gonna be riffing. I think we're probably gonna try and do some music. We haven't actually figured that out yet.
Yeah.
But I don't know that we'll actually be eating grits, but we might let you know how we take our grits. So we'll see how that works out. But last word so we can go, because it's late.
Oh, let me also announce that there's going to be a special edition of the Takedown with Nick this Monday with me and Nick. And we're going to be talking about the strength of the left and how the weakness of the left is a myth perpetrated by those of the establishment. And so, like, I know it'll probably be announced at some point. So if you like to take down with Nick, we're going to be doing a special edition of that this Monday, as far as I know. That's been planning, me and Nick. And
okay. Sounds great.
Thank you for joining us. And
well, this has been a special edition of Anoa.
Don't share this video.
Special edition. It's the first edition of Late Night with Anoa and Brandon. We'll see if Anoa and Brandon do this again. But thank you so much, you guys, for joining us and hanging in there and conversing. Like I said, there's stuff going on. If you're interested in local levels, we can help point you into any directions with toolkits or guides. If we can help connect you with organizations, I mean, we can try our best to help you. We're not necessarily an organization set up to do that, but whatever information and stuff we have, we'll definitely share with any of you. You can hit me up on email, thewayWithAnoa@gmail.com. If you have questions, suggestions, thoughts, ideas, you want to run anything past, you're considering running for election, because there is stuff out there, and we do need to make sure people have the tools and resources necessary to go out there and fight the good fight. So we don't have any outro music or intro music tonight, but thank you. Talk to you soon. Peace.